Bernie Sanders is lighting it up. He is surging on the Democratic side. Let me show you some numbers for the people who showed up at his rallies recently. 5,000 people in Houston, Texas, 8,000 in Dallas, Texas, 11,000 in Phoenix, Arizona. These are red states. And Bernie Sanders is not messing around. He's like, look, I'm not just going to go to New Hampshire and Iowa. I'm not just going to go to South Carolina. I'm not just going to early primary states. I'm going everywhere. I'm going to Dallas. I'm going to Houston. I'm going to Phoenix. That's a mix between Howard Dean and Bernie Sanders, I think. Giant crowds in all these places. So now that he has picked up all sorts of momentum, well, the right's got to strike back at him, right? So the National Review has a hit job from Kevin Williamson on there, and boy, did they go low. So he writes about how Bernie Sanders is a nationalist socialist. For if you don't know what a national socialist is, that's a Nazi. And Kevin Williamson knows that. Let me give you his quotes, and then we'll explain. He says, in the Bernie verse, there's a whole lot of nationalism mixed up in the socialism. He is, in fact, leading a national socialist movement, which is a queasy and uncomfortable thing to write about a man who's the son of Jewish immigrants from Poland and whose family was murdered in the Holocaust. But there is no other way to characterize his view and his politics. Wait. Williamson, after being challenged on this, decided to backpedal a little bit and say, I didn't say Nazi. I just said National Socialist. Well, if you didn't mean Nazi, why did you mention the Holocaust in the very next sentence? Oh, right. That's because you did mean Nazi. And then you know his family was murdered in the Holocaust, and you decided to call him a Nazi anyway. Isn't that amazing? So people think, oh, Donald Trump, he's the real problem. He's the guy who's a loudmouth and goes beyond the pale. They're all beyond the pale, man. Is there people now that are calling for Kevin Williamson to get fired or the National Review to have any kind of consequences? No, nobody on the right's doing that. Because if you say something about one of their own, well, that's a big problem. I can't believe you question John McCain's war record. You do it to a Democrat. They did a whole campaign, Swift Boat Veterans for Truth, to Swift Boat John Kerry and to destroy his reputation for what he did bravely in the Vietnam War. Look at what they did to Max Cleland. Guy lost several limbs fighting for this country, and they said that he was un-American. Do they question their military service if he's a Democrat? Of course Republicans do. Against John McCain himself, Bush's team back in 2000 tried to claim that he had an illegitimate black daughter because he'd adopted one of his daughters is from Bangladesh. I mean, you think Republicans aren't willing to go low? Here they are. Bernie Sanders is surging. Apparently they're a little worried. They're calling him a Nazi. And nobody's worried about it. Nobody on the right wing is saying, oh, wow, oh, my God, this is outrageous. This is wrong. They shouldn't do that. Now, Kevin Williamson is going to try to explain why he had to use this language. It's in the same article. Remember the end of that quote. He said, there is no other way to characterize his view. Really, there's no other way to characterize Bernie Sanders' politics other than Nazi? By the way, this is also the most liberal senator in the country. In our political spectrum, literally the furthest thing we have from a Nazi. As far as the political spectrum is concerned, Bernie Sanders is all the way on the left. The Nazis, I don't know if you know this, are all the way on the right. They were not progressive. They were not interested in peace. They were not interested in mankind or rights for everybody. They're pretty sure that certain people shouldn't have rights. Okay, Kevin Williamson further explains why he had to do this. He says, Hayek's road to serfdom notwithstanding, corralling off foreign-made cards does not lead inevitably to corralling off foreign-born people or members of ethnic minorities, although the Asians and Latinos with their filthy, cheap goods rhetoric in and around the Bernieverse is troubling. So if you're having trouble keeping up with this shitty writing, let me break it down for you. What he's saying is, oh, when you complain about cheap goods coming into the country and you'd like to protect the American worker, you see, that's nationalism. So, and he's a self-described socialist, so I'm going to be really cute and clever, and I'm going to say, hey, I got it, National Socialist. I got him, he's a Nazi. So wait a minute. Are you saying that we should not protect the American worker? That we should not have a president whose #1 job is to protect Americans? and to look out for Americans? I thought the whole Republican Party was about looking out for Americans and screw everybody else. In fact, Kevin Williamson, in an earlier story, had written this. The United States, like any country, has many kinds of national interests, economic, military, cultural, etc. It is not chauvinistic, jingoistic, or yahooistic to recognize that fact and to expect that our national immigration policy, like our defense policy and our economic policy, is organized around those interests, national interests. So he had done exactly what he accuses Bernie Sanders of doing earlier, even more so. But now he turns around and says, for having the same opinions as me, you're a fucking Nazi. And he knows his family was killed in the Holocaust. There is no bottom to the Republican barrel. There is no bottom. They disgust me. So please spare me your righteous indignation about what Trump said or didn't say. You guys do it all the time. You do it as a matter of course. And you never blink when it's done to a Democrat or to anyone else. Oh my God, but he did it to McCain. He's a fellow Republican. Boo-hoo. And the minute you guys all come out and say, this guy should immediately be fired for doing this to Bernie Sanders, is the minute I'll believe you're actually outraged by what Trump said. By the way, I don't know what this guy's thing is. I don't know if he thinks, who cares, man? I can call anybody a Nazi all I want. I'm a right-winger. There are no consequences for right-wingers in America. Nobody ever loses their job. We can say anything. We could be as outrageous as we want. That's, I'm sure, part of his calculation, and I'm sure he's right. He won't lose his job over this. National Review, by the way, if you don't know, is an irrelevant rag that only a couple of, like 2-3 people in Washington read. So why are we even doing a story about their sorry ass? It's because this is the propaganda that the rich and the powerful put out. And then they pretend like it's a legitimate thing. Oh, it was written in the National Review, so that's why we should deregulate all the industries. Oh, yeah, would that make me billions of dollars? I guess it would. Oh, they wrote it in the National Review. Nobody reads the National Review. This video will likely get more views than the entire circulation of the National Review for a whole year. But they'll sit there and talk about, the National, I do declare, what did the National Review say? Who gives a fuck what the National Review said? They're, on their best month, they get like 1 million page clicks on their website. Oh, did you? That's cute. We get twice as much as that in one day on just our YouTube channel. Oh, National Review. Oh, are you powerful? It isn't about viewers. It isn't about readers. Nobody reads this piece of shit, okay? The whole point is for the rich and the powerful to put out propaganda and have it go, oh, please, it's from the esteemed National Review. It must be true. And so understand the people that are doing this to Bernie Sanders. You think it's Kevin Williamson? These guys, by one estimate, these guys are losing like $20 million, National Review is. They don't make any money. They don't believe in capitalism. This isn't about capitalism. If National Review had to stand on its own legs, it'd fold tomorrow. Tomorrow it'd be bankrupt and gone. It's propped up by those same establishment figures. And so don't get mad at Kevin Williamson. I mean, get mad at him. I'm mad at him, right? But get mad at the guys who pay Kevin Williamson to write this crap about Bernie Sanders. You think they don't know he's calling him a Nazi? They know. That's what they pay him for. Because he's a threat to the establishment. And this is how the establishment strikes back. So that's the reality of Washington.